What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to review the Emotiva B2 Plus Bookshelf Speaker. This is the larger version of one of my favorite budget bookshelf speakers, the B1 Plus, that retails for just $300 a pair. This new larger version retails for $500 a pair, and we're going to review it. So I've had these for a few months because the minute I saw that Emotiva had a larger version of one of my favorite speakers, I had to have it. I emailed them right away and asked for a review sample. So I've been lagging a little bit on making this video, but I've put a ton of hours on them and I've used them with a ton of different amplifiers, like Emotiva's own TA2 amplifier that's sitting right here. We will review that in the future. Also used my Hagel H190, my Kinky Studio separates, as well as a $179 cheapy amplifier off of Amazon. And the speakers seem to play very well with a wide variety of amplifiers. We'll do this review the same way we generally do. I'll tell you about some specs and standout features. I'll throw the main ones on screen. I'll tell you what the speaker sounds like. We'll do some comparisons and then we'll wrap it up. So, standout features. For $500, you're getting a painted front baffle. I love to see that. Usually we don't see paint at this price point. The rest of the cabinet is going to be finished in a heavy-duty vinyl. I like Emotiva's vinyl finish a lot. It's one of my favorites. It's a little bit textured. It almost feels like leather, but it doesn't necessarily look like leather, if you will. Its main point, in my opinion, is going to be to avoid having any screen reflections if you put it close to a TV or something like that. Common concern in the theater space. We have an AMT tweeter up front, a 6.5-inch mid-bass driver that looks to be made out of some kind of carbon fiber material. Around back, we have a pair of 5-way binding posts, so you can buy amp or buy wire these. Now, they come with metal plate jumpers. I feel like the speakers sound better if you take those out and use like 14-gauge copper wire instead. That's what I did, and I felt that it made the treble just a little bit smoother and a little bit more refined. Do with that information what you will. That's a really cheap thing to experiment with, and I do like to encourage people to experiment with things like that. So, what do the speakers sound like? So let's start with the top end. We've got a top end that's going to be on the forward side of neutral. It's going to be more energetic than the little brother Emotiva B1 Plus. It's going to give you a lot of good detail retrieval, and it's going to sound fairly refined. One thing I like about Emotiva's AMT tweeter is it's good at giving you detail that sounds unforced. And that's a characteristic we generally find in like higher end audio. So pretty cool to get that type of sound for $500, or in the case of the B1 Plus, $300. Absolutely killer. Moving down to the mid-range was mostly a neutral affair, and when mid-range is neutral, there's just not much to talk about. So let's go down to the bass. There's no mid-bass bump or anything like that. It's going to be voiced tonally neutral or balanced in the bass region. What I'm trying to say is, despite this being larger than the B1 Plus, it's not a bass boosted speaker. What it is a very bass capable speaker, and that makes a lot of sense. If you think about it, Emotiva is essentially a theater company. So in a theater setting, you want to make sure your speaker can handle large dynamic passages. And in a theater setting, that could be something like tank fire, gunshots, explosions. Some of those effects, they're very dynamic, much more than music generally is. Theater is crazy demanding compared to music. And the B1 Plus, I love that speaker, and I think it'll do just fine in a lot of mixed systems. But some people have larger rooms. Some people are more demanding, listen louder and things like that. You want to have a little bit more confidence. You want a speaker that can play louder, give you more bass output in those dynamic passages. Here you go. The larger B2 Plus will get the job done. As far as how the two speakers compare, I would say this. Tonally, the B1 Plus and the B2 Plus are going to be very similar. The B2 Plus is just going to be a little bit more energetic with its treble. The mid-range on the two is fairly the same. I'd say the B1 Plus does feel to be just a tiny bit recessed, where the B2 Plus seems to be just a little bit more neutral. Moving down to the bass region, both speakers have a full confident sound. Neither speaker is bass boosted, but both are fairly bass capable. The larger one is going to be more bass capable, obviously. I would leave you with this. If you are doing a stereo only setup and you're not sure which speaker to get, I would actually suggest save your money, go for the smaller B1 Plus instead, and use that money towards an amplifier or subwoofer. But if you're doing a mixed system or theater only system, then I think the larger B2 Plus makes a lot more sense. It's going to be a lot more capable in those louder passages, and go for the larger speaker, right? So we've done sound compare. I told you what it sounds like. I compared it to the B1 Plus, so you guys kind of know where it sits in Emotiva's lineup. How does it compare to other speakers? So this is kind of a tough one because I haven't reviewed any speakers that are 500 bucks. Most of the ones I review are way less or way more. And if you look at the market, there's not a lot of speakers priced at $500 flat. It's kind of strange. But there are a couple I can talk about. Triangle Bro 3, I haven't reviewed that yet, but I do have it here. That's a great speaker. It MSRPs for around, I think, $540 or so. It does get significantly discounted down to about $350 fairly often. So is it a $350 speaker? Is it a $500 speaker? I don't know. It gets kind of confusing, guys, but let's talk about the comparison. Starting with the top end, both speakers are going to give you similar amounts of treble energy. They're both on the forward side of neutral, almost in an identical manner. The difference is going to be the AMT on the Emotiva is just going to be a little bit more resolving and give you better micro detail and refinement. The triangle is not bad by any means, just by direct comparison, the Emotiva is going to be more resolving and give you a little bit more detail. Moving down to the mid-range, the Emotiva B2 Plus and the Triangle Bro 3 have a similar mid-range, but the mid-range of the Bro 3 is just a little bit more open. That vocalist is going to project into your room just a little bit more. This is an area where they're fairly close, much like the treble. It's just with the treble, the B2 Plus took the slight edge. With the mid-range, the Bro 3 takes a slight edge. Moving down to the bass, both speakers give you similar quantities of bass. They're similar sized speakers. The Triangle is actually a little bit larger as far as its cabinet goes, but the B2 Plus, its bass is just a little bit fuller, a little bit more confident, and it could take much more of a beating. The Triangle Bro 3 is a fantastic speaker and I like it a lot, but its happy place seems to be around 70-75 dB. That's not to say you can't play it louder, you certainly could, but it starts to lose some of its confidence, and some of the things that make it sound great, like its effortlessness to its presentation, start to go away as you demand more output from it. Whereas the Emotiva B2 Plus holds its composure and stays confident deep into those louder output volumes. So I'll leave you with this. If you want like a stereo set of speakers and you're between the Bro 3 and the Emotiva B2 Plus, you know, they're both really good speakers. The Emotiva B2 Plus is going to give you a much better cabinet, better build quality and things like that. The Triangle Bro 3 is just going to give you a little bit more of an open mid-range, but it does seem like more of the benefits do inch towards the B2 Plus. If it's anything but stereo only, like mixed system, theater only, a gaming rig, and so on, you're probably going to prefer the B2 Plus for its ability to handle dynamic passages much, much better. Again, guys, theater is way, way, way more demanding than music ever could be. As far as other comparisons, let's talk about the Polk Reserve R100. That one's $649 a pair, so it is $150 more expensive than the Emotiva. The two speakers could not sound more different, however. The top end of the Polk Reserve R100 is going to be smooth and rolled off. The top end of the Emotiva B2 Plus is going to be more energetic and lively. However, both speakers give you the same amount of detail retrieval, and both speakers do sound fairly refined in the top end. I would say Emotiva B2 Plus might take a little bit of an edge in refinement actually here. Moving down to the mid-range, again, the two speakers voiced very differently, where the Emotiva B2 Plus is very neutral in its mid-range. The Polk Reserve R100 is going to be more tonally rich, warm, textured, and so on in its mid-range. Moving down to the bass, the Polk Reserve R100 is the smallest of the Reserve range. 5¼ inch driver, tiny cabinet. It just doesn't have much bass at all. It has enough bass for it to sound correct, but a subwoofer is absolutely mandatory, and it's not going to be able to handle dynamic swings and output like the B2 Plus can. So bass is going to be an easy edge to the Emotiva B2 Plus. It's a fuller sound. It's a more confident sound. I'm trying to think if there are any other speakers I've left out that are about 500 bucks. There's the KEF Q150, but that's another weird one because it's like 600 MSRP, but then it goes on sale for like 300, and it's much smaller as a 5¼ inch driver. Let's do it. I brought it up. Let's talk about it. So the top end of both speakers, again, a little bit on the forward side of neutral in a similar way. They do it differently, however. KEF with its UniQ driver gives this interesting sense of like depth and distance that I usually don't hear from other speakers. And if I do, it's still just a little bit different. And much like I can say Emotiva's AMT tweeter presents treble in a way that is, again, very different than the KEF Q150, I'm going to strongly suggest a demo if possible or an in-home trial. But again, both speakers have similar amounts of treble energy. I think the Emotiva B2 Plus is going to be just a little bit more on the forward side of neutral. Moving down to the mid-range, again, both speakers are going to be fairly similar. They're both voiced to be fairly neutral. Moving down to the bass, this is an interesting one. The KEF Q150 is much, much smaller, but it's a very bass boosted speaker. So with your tone control set to 0, the KEF Q150 is actually going to be a lot bassier, a lot fuller sounding and things like that. However, it is not the quickest, tightest, or most articulate bass. No surprise there. That's generally what we see when an affordable speaker is bass boosted. The Emotiva B2 Plus is going to be more neutral with its bass. It's got a lot of potential for bass output when called upon, but if you set your tone controls to 0, it's a fairly neutral affair. It's a confident sound. It's a very full sound. It's just not boosted the way it is in the KEF Q150. So that wraps up comparisons, guys. Is there one more? There's one more. Monitor audio. Let's do monitor audio. Which one is it? The Bronze 100. I just thought about that one. I think it's like $700. So again, it is a little bit more expensive. Bronze 100 gives you an 8-inch driver. It's one of the largest bookshelf speakers there is, so it's definitely going to take the edge as far as extension. However, both speakers' bass region is voiced to be neutral. Neither speaker is bass boosted. They're going to give you similar amounts of bass, but that larger 8-inch in the Bronze 100 is going to give you a fuller sound with more extension. Both speakers can absolutely take a beating, but the mid-range and treble of the Emotiva B2 Plus hold their composure and sound more confident at louder volumes, where the monitor audio Bronze 100 can start to sound a little bit gritty when pushed, which is a shame because it's a really it's a big speaker. It's one of the larger bookshelf speakers, and it does really, really well for like movies and TVs and things like that at medium volumes. It's just not the best at like really loud volumes, unfortunately. It just is what it is. Long story short, mid-range and up, I would just give the edge to the B2 Plus. I find its treble to be a little bit more refined. Both speakers have a good mid-range. The Monitor Audio Bronze 100 has a killer mid-range. Actually, it has some of the best dialogue clarity I've ever heard. So if you want a speaker for like TV use only, you want to just really make sure you could hear that dialogue, Monitor Audio Bronze 100 is a good choice. But at $200 more than the B2 Plus and having treble that's not as refined as the B2 Plus, it does make it tough to recommend in this situation. Okay, we're really done with comparisons now. With that said, guys, I think this brings this video to a close. I do want to say if you have any questions, ask in the comments below. This YouTube channel does also have a free Discord server. If you join my Discord, please don't be like a know-it-all, like I'm super smart, smarter than everyone kind of guy. No one cares. You're not impressing anyone. If I said anything in this video that offends you, or if you took anything I said as a personal attack, I don't care. Tell your therapist that. Your emotions are not my responsibility. Let's see if there's anything else I want to add here. No, that's it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Until next time, later.